number 10 is Zanac. This game isn't about the flash. It stands out because of impeccable execution. It was developed in 1988 by Compile, who would later become famous for their puzzle game Puyo Puyo. It's actually a port of the 1986 version, which was originally developed for the MSX-based home computers, and was a sequel to another shooter called Exa Innova, released in 1984. This game was far less popular than Zanac, but laid the groundwork for it. If you play through Exa Innova, then you can see some of the same enemies and enemy pattern. But the advancements made between the two are really what make Zanac great and memorable. That being the AI and the music, but we'll get more into that later. Even for NES standards, Zanac doesn't look far and away better than any other game released at the time. In fact, screenshots would make it look pretty middle of the road. But this is where pictures don't do it justice. The game kept a rock-steady frame rate. Even when the screen was riddled with bullets or you were speeding across the terrain, there was no reprieve from the waves of enemies. Unlike other shoot-'em-ups of the time, the bosses in Zanac weren't that impressive looking though. They were always just a collection of ground-based guns and missile launchers. Nothing's ever amazing looking, and the levels only feel slightly different from each other. Again, the graphics aren't fantastic, but they do the job. You can play a fast, addicting, sprite-filled game with no slowdown or flicker. Compile must have learned something after making Exa Innova. Sure, the NES sound chip was more advanced than what they were used to, but that still doesn't excuse this. You could at least put 2 annoying, dinky songs into a game. Not only does the music fit the mood of the game, but it's incredibly catchy and memorable. Like all other great music of the 8-bit era, they were just little snippets of songs. I mean, none of the tunes ever reached the 2-minute mark before repeating. Throughout the 14 areas, there were only about 6 distinct tracks, with each repeating ad infinitum, and still, they never got tiresome. The plot of Zanac is pretty standard shooter fare. I'm going to try and use the exact verbiage in the manual, but keep in mind, it's pretty full of English faux pas. So a system was carved by an organic intelligence body. First it started out as a dot, and it grew to encompass the entire universe. After the organic intelligence body perished, the system would be able to grant whomever opened the icon correctly boundless knowledge. Then, one day, someone opened the icon improperly, and the system became a slaughter device. Of course, this slaughter device was only equipped to attack large forces, so that you, the hero, piloting the Zanac ship, could defeat it. You start out on some vaguely Terran landscapes, but then slowly progressed to the outer space and other planets, then to organic landscapes, then finally to a machine-like core where the game ends. Even though the bosses weren't visually impressive, they were incredibly tough. They always had a set number of specific guns and attachments, some of which would shoot missiles or bullets or these little football things, or the worst, these spiraling orbs that were almost indestructible. That difficulty doesn't come in what assortment of attachments were there, though. It was more in how they were organized. See, destroying one turret just meant that the other turrets took up the slack. If you just destroyed all the easily accessible targets first, then you could end up in this dire situation. Probably the most interesting part of this early shooter was the AI, though. It's what kept gamers coming back to Zanac. Instead of memorizing specific ship patterns and placements, the game was seemingly random every time you played it. And actually, it probably was. Zanac had an adjustable difficulty dependent on things like how much you shot and missed, and even what weapons you picked up. It was this AI on the fly that made you feel like you were attacking something that was responding to you, to reacting to you, and really increased the replayability. In fact, you could make the first level incredibly hard by not letting up on your fire and picking up the shields. Zanac actually had a sequel. It was called Zanac Neo, and it was produced for the PlayStation, although never released in the North American market. In 2001, a compilation called Zanac x Zanac was released for the 15th anniversary of the original, which included Zanac Neo and several reworkings of the original game. Unfortunately, though, this was never released in North America either. If you're looking to play the original, the NES port was just released on Nintendo Wii's Virtual Console in December 2007. So that's Zanac, a nice little shooter with great music and addicting gameplay. It was a somewhat neglected game on the NES due to the high quality of games in 1988, but it became a cult classic and even garnered a couple remakes and sequels. If you haven't tried it yet, you should pick it up on Virtual Console. Next up, number 9.